Hi everyone, and welcome to the last webinar of 2025. So thank you to all of those of you who have joined our webinars this year. It's great to have you attend these, and welcome to any new attendees on today's session. So today is going to be all about how you can prepare for 2026 and the very big year ahead that we've got in terms of employment law. Before we get going, we're just going to introduce ourselves and do some housekeeping. I'm Victoria Templeton, the HR Knowledge Manager here at HR Solutions, and together with Sue Watson, who's our Operations Director, we're going to guide you through today's topic. We've got lots of you here with us today, which is great. You're all placed on mute. However, with our webinars, we do always want your engagement with us and for you to have your say. You can do that in a couple of ways. First of all, you have the ability to ask us your questions, and we'll take as many as we can live at the very end. And in which case you should enter your questions on your GoToWebinar panel. So the slide now should be showing you what that looks like. And then the second way in which we like to engage is through our polls, and they're particularly helpful because it helps form our discussion points, and for all of you it helps give you some insights into what other organisations are thinking and doing, so it's always good just to do those pulse checks throughout the session. In terms of what we're going to cover today, first of all, we're going to cover the crucial insights regarding the legislation that's scheduled for 2026. And that's going to be followed by our observations and what we're seeing from a trends point of view in the broader management of people, the labour market and workforce confidence. This will then frame the context for how we plan. And in this part of the discussion, it'll be about how we can guide you on what you can be doing now in the coming months. And one thing I'm a true believer of is something that I was taught many years ago, is that failing to prepare is preparing to fail. And, you know, with the year we've got ahead, strategic planning is going to be key and fundamental. So hopefully what we're going to share with you today will help get you on the right stage for doing that. We're then going to give you an update on the ERB at the very end, and then we'll take your Q&A also. Before we start the session, we're just going to run 2 polls at this point. First of all, it's just to get to know our audience, you know, where you're from in terms of the size of the organisation and how you do human resource management in your business. So the first poll, if you'd like to let us know. Hopefully the polls will be working okay this month.
Yeah, it still seems a bit sticky.
Does it?
Yeah. Took a while before it started collecting.
Okay.
Okay. Oops. I think we are just about there now.
Okay, wonderful.
So I'll close and share. So there we go. So the majority in the middle. So the 10
okay,
to
yeah.
250. Equal 10 to 49 and 50 to 249. Just about. Okay.
And then the second one, who's responsible for your human resource management in your business?
They're going through now.
Okay.
Okay, we will close and share those results.
Let's see. Okay, I can see here most have in-house HR, whether that's just one individual or a team. And interesting, yeah, we do see a lot of business owners being the ones that also are dealing with HR management matters. or office managers. So yeah, that's interesting. And I think regardless of what job function you work in, next year is going to be a critical year and a busy one too. So let's crack on then with the next slide. There we go. So and this is all about now thinking ahead for 2026 alone. And in terms of the Employment Rights Bill, there are 22 reforms that, if passed, will bring in 22 reforms between the bill passing and April next year. That's just 4 months away. There's about 14 of them which relate to trade unions. One in particular will automatically come in when the bill is given royal assent, but most of the trade union reforms will be in a few months. But then you've got a further 8 reforms confirmed to be implemented in April, and that's significant. But that's not all. Once April is out the way, we then have a further 21 reforms that impact the entire employment life cycle from April all the way through to 2027 and possibly beyond. So we know at this point, when we look at just 2026, there are 10 reforms in the October. There's 11 of them that carry over into the year after and beyond. So clearly that is just illustrating why planning for change needs to be that business critical activity. And I'm not going to go through the detail of this slide. This is more of an illustration, and you will get a copy of the slides after, so you've got it as a reference point. But these are the particular reforms that are coming in when. And as you can see, they're all pretty significant. If you think about April, that's the first major milestone, I would say, and that's where you've got like your SSP reforms, day one paternity and parental rights. So as I said, I won't go through all the detail. You've got that for after the event, and you can find out more about those on our website as well, because we write a lot about these reforms. But it's really illustrating the scale of it. And this slide is summarising all the known legislation changes just for next year. And obviously the highlighted boxes are is the ERB, and we've got those 3 phases. So phase 2 and phase 3, that's your April and October. The phase 1 piece is like your trade union bits, where one of them's immediately and the few others that come in a few months after, potentially. But then on top of the Employment Rights Bill, it's all the other employment legislation that employers need to make sure they comply with. So we already know the national minimum wage and living wage is increasing. We've had now provisional new rates for the statutory pay rates, you know, your family friendly rates that we have. And then in terms of the amendments of the Income Tax Act, that's going to be critical, because it will mean that recruitment agencies will also face new responsibilities, where they're becoming accountable for PAYE on payments made from the 6th of April to those workers that are supplied via umbrella companies or directly by the end client, where there is no agency involved. And then finally, you'll see the Data Use and Access Act. Some of those principles or obligations are already in force, but the rest of the Act has to be enforced by around June, July. And then obviously the final box is that phase 3 of the ERB, which is around the October. So this is a significant year ahead. What I do want to just flag for you all now is we're going to be going into more detail, obviously, in our annual virtual employment law seminar. So here are the details. It'll be great to have you join us. It's a free couple of hours virtual online session, and we're going to be delving into all of the ERB, and obviously we'll have greater clarity by that point. Yes, it'll be great for you to join us on there. Now, in terms of the poll, I think it'll be a good time just to sort of sense check with you all, do a quick pulse check. Got a couple of poll questions here, and it's really, have you started preparing for the changes that are happening in 2026?
Yeah, I've launched that now. I've launched it. It's waiting for it to.
A bit slow, isn't it?
Kick in, yeah. I think it hopefully reaches you and you are all able to vote pretty well straight away. It's just before we see the collection responses that are coming through now. Okay, we will close and share those results.
Brilliant. Okay, let's see what they are.
It's good number.
So, yeah, good number that have started preparing. There may be things that you pick up from today's session that will help further with your planning. For those of you that haven't, there's lots of information I'm going to go through today. I think the key message I guess we would have is start now as soon as you're able to, because whether that's looking at your budgets, your finance, your resourcing levels, because as I'll come on to explain, reforms will have an impact on all aspects of the organisation. Directly on people, yes, but also it'll have an indirect impact on the wider business. So hopefully you'll pick up some help and support as we go through the session today. Does that surprise you, Sue? Sorry, that figure?
No, not at all,
No.
because I think there's a lot of noise out there anyway, and there has been for some
Yeah.
time, and we've indeed been raising it for several months now, haven't we, about planning. So hopefully some of you will have heard our recommendations, use some of our materials to help you do that with all the audits and things like that. So yeah, I'm just going to launch the next one just because it takes a while as well. But yeah, it's definitely
and also because we don't know all the detail, I get the argument that it's not as always easy to do any planning, but hopefully now in the coming weeks and months we'll start getting that further clarity. And so the next poll question is more about, do you have that strategic HR plan then looking ahead for 2026?
Which is, it is also challenging, but I think you can still plan for what you need to do even if you don't have the detail yet. And we've been planning for over a year now for this, for the changes we need to do for our clients, what policies will we need to update, and doing as much as we can from what we know now, and then leaving it till the last minute before we can finalise, because we're still waiting for some of the detail, some of the key changes. But hopefully that will be coming through very soon. And they don't do a Friday night thing on us like they used to with the COVID stuff.
It'll be Friday the 19th of December before everybody pretty much finishes for Christmas.
Everybody packs up. Yeah. We'll get everything passed and launched, and it'll be like, oh my goodness, what are we coming back to?
Yeah.
So right, I'll close and share
Let's
this.
see.
So yeah, good number of people are already
brilliant
on the way, which is great. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So let's carry on. And so this section is more about, whilst obviously legal compliance is that top priority going into next year, we even need to consider the employment landscape because the reform is going to have wider implications of the workplace culture. So this section is all about sharing our insights in terms of the labour market, workforce confidence, along with emerging HR trends. So we're going to share with you our insights. And the first one we'll begin with is AI. And it's still obviously in the news a lot. It's probably quieting down a bit because at the moment the news is all ERB, but AI is no longer a tool for experimentation. It is becoming a core business function, and it is the top priority for employees and employers and HR leaders. The technology is being embedded across core HR systems. So if you think about recruitment, learning, performance management, and so AI needs to be that critical focus for HR leadership because it's about being responsible in the deployment of AI. There needs to be that strong governance, ethical frameworks, and of course fairness. So for the HR function or individual that deals with HR is about evolving into a strategic digital partner, so that you're able to expertly balance the necessity for human judgment with the efficiency gains that are offered by AI. So that is definitely one big HR trend for us. And then the second trend is in the area of skills, knowledge development, and overall workforce flexibility. And if you think about the reforms coming in, changes to contract types, changes to hours, 0-hour contracts, the costs that come up as a result of the reforms, it will require employers to look at their entire business in all aspects. So if we think about recruitment, we're seeing a shift away from traditional credentials, so typically degrees, CV history, and it's perhaps looking more about skills-based hiring, mobilising your workforce from within as a way of developing from within, emphasising soft skills and actual competencies. So the internal mobility will become a key focus, particularly at times when budgets are restricted, especially for micro-organisations where budgets are definitely much tighter and restricted, as well as when you're dealing with perhaps employee engagement challenges or employee retention. Internal mobility is going to be a key strategic area for HR. And then if we think about learning and development, perhaps moving towards micro-learning where training and education is delivered perhaps in small focused bite-sized chunks over time, gradually, and developing an environment for learning and development that is about sharing expertise and experiences amongst a group rather than top-down training programs. And workforce fluidity is essential because, especially as I said, with changes with contracts, hours of work, flexibility is going to be key in how you can remain agile and flexible in the new world. It's about looking at how you can take a dynamic approach to organising work, leveraging talent, perhaps moving away from rigid structures of fixed roles and full-time employment. So it's about having that fluid workforce to help. And the third area is about building a business that is people-centered, prioritising employee experience and well-being. We know that employee expectations are rising. There's a competitive job market. There's extraordinary levels of mental ill health. And so the employee experience, you know, their well-being, the purpose, the inclusion, these can be core differentiators between employer and employer. So this is definitely certainly an area of focus. And if we think about the fourth area and having that flexible, agile and functional HR function, it's going to be I guess moving away from your traditional HR silos, and in place it's becoming more of a cross-functional teams, managing the entire employee life cycle, business partnering. HR is becoming more increasingly strategic, working more closely aligned with the overarching business goals through that business partnering approach. And this evolution of HR as a function applies whether HR operates in-house, perhaps is assigned to a specific individual, or whether it's delivered through external partners. And then the final trend is about how organisations are needing to consider data-driven decision-making and using the HR analytics for predictive workforce planning. The shift towards that data-led insight allows employees to proactively identify emerging skill gaps. It can help to forecast turnover risks and align workforce planning with broader business priorities. And so the result is more informed talent management, stronger retention strategies, and a workforce model that's shaped by evidence rather than assumption. If we think about the labour market and workforce confidence, you know, the environment we're operating in, employers obviously need to assess this as well as the legislation that's coming in. SMEs, which we know make up over 99% of the private sector employers, face a particularly urgent need for proactive workforce planning and robust compliance preparation. The scale of change introduced by the Employment Rights Bill, alongside a challenging economic environment, therefore makes it critical for SMEs to understand and prepare for the operational organisational impacts that are ahead. And the data that we're showing here is from a recent labour market analysis from the CBI and Pertemps. And in their research, it covered jobs, pay, competitiveness and skills. And it highlights the depths of concerns from employers and businesses. You know, the findings are showing us that 78% of UK businesses are worried about the affordability of the ERB reforms, with the anxiety highest amongst SMEs that are lacking dedicated HR or legal resources. Nearly half strongly disagree that the ERB will be affordable without unintended consequences. And 53% consider the bill being the second largest threat to business competitiveness. These pressures are obviously already influencing strategic decisions. We know from this data as well that 27% of employers report they're considering reducing their headcount as opposed to expanding it to manage potential costing as a way to manage potential cost increases. So for the smaller organisations, the expected strain on operations, workforce stability and future investment is likely to be the most severe. So these are really all interesting statistics, and it gives us a sense as to how organisations are feeling. And as I said, it is from a CBI report that was published back in November, so not that long ago. So really just to sort of do a quick pulse check-in with you all, based on that, and over the next 12 months, are you going to be reducing the workforce size or grow the business to offset potential costs?
Oh, excuse me, that one's launched now.
Okay.
Just waiting for it to activate. There we go.
And it may be, perhaps you don't know at this point, and the planning that you're going to be undertaking now moving forward will get to you making a decision on this. For others, you perhaps already know.
Absolutely. I think there's enough information about what is coming in and when to know to kind of do the impact assessment and to understand what's what is going to have to change in your organisation, even if you can't actually physically implement any of the updated policies and processes and contractual stuff now.
Yeah.
You will know what the impact will be, and that's the key thing to plan for and to ensure we're in place. I think I can just close the poll.
I always think about the example, if you take SSP, for example, costs will increase because of that. Well, as a business, are you going to make the decision to absorb those extra costs, or is the strategic decision to pass it on through the services that you offer, the things that you sell? So these are kind of decisions. So what's the results here? So that's a good number of you planning to grow the business to offset the potential costs.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah. And then we've got a second quick pulse check. It's about whether, from a pay point of view, are you likely to offer pay increase above or in line with inflation in the next pay review, or set a general pay freeze? And again, you may not have thought of this point.
And I guess that's also when you look at the other changes that are happening, the significant increases in the national minimum wage, if you have a lot of workers around that level. But it's also the implication on the more skilled roles that you might have above that, because the differential is getting narrower and narrower. And I know from some of the clients we've discussed with recently, that is the biggest challenge for them, is the fact that the increase in the national minimum wage has meant that their skilled levels are getting need increasing as well significantly to keep the differential. So it's a tough old world out there. Okay, let's see what we've got here. So if I close that and share that, so that's good. That there's a significant number are looking at offering a pay increase above really or in line with inflation.
Yeah.
But yeah, the challenges are definitely there for a significant number of people.
Yeah, and also pay is a massive factor for employee retention and attraction. So it's considering all of those different aspects when you're sitting down considering your pay. Okay.
Are we doing the next one here, or?
No, we'll move on to the planning for change. So I've given you the context from a legal point of view, what's coming in, and just touched on some of the HR trends and the business context we're operating in. So now's really about focusing on how we can plan and the things to consider. So here you'll see lots of questions, and it just illustrates the breadth of change that we're going to be seeing. So how will you manage the additional costs that are arising from the reforms? How will you retain the workforce flexibility and agility under the new requirements? If we think about the 0-hour contract issue, how will that impact your business? How will you need to evolve your recruitment and resourcing approach? And will the higher statutory payments impact your reward strategy and your ability to attract and retain? And if so, what does that mean for your employee value proposition? You know, how you stand out from the crowd, if you like. Then it's about considering how you maintain that strong employment relationship with your workforce, but also your trade union relationships, and sustain that employee engagement throughout a period of change. Training and capability building is, without question, probably one of the biggest investments and essentials going into this period of change. And it's not just your line managers, senior leaders, but also think about your HR teams, your payroll teams. You know, the changes we're going to see are significant, quite drastic in some areas, and are seen as the biggest changes in decades. So training and capability building is going to be essential. And you want to also consider your current systems and technology. Do they have the capacity to support compliance in this new world? Do they have the capacity to process in the right way? And do you need to develop new processes? And then which of your working practices do you need to update? How should your policies and procedures develop as a result of these reforms? These are all very strategic questions, and feed in very much as well with your contractual documents. You know, how will you need to make them more robust so they work best for you, but also work for the employee as well, and being legally compliant. So, as I said, these questions really do illustrate why these employment reforms are going to be the most significant change we'll have seen in decades. This illustrates why there's going to need to be that strategic planning, thinking ahead, and thinking very broadly and being aligned with the business goals as well. Now, on this next slide, I want to share with you a couple of resources we've got available that are free to people. So, and it will all tie in with how you prepare and plan. And a good place to start in preparations, first of all, is to look at how you currently comply with employment law. You know, if you undertake a HR risk audit, which you can see a link there through that QR code, or go to our website, you can access our free risk audit there. It allows you to uncover potential risks to your business now. So not only does it ensure you'll take that immediate action to correct anything, but implementing the reforms won't then be unnecessarily complicated, although they are complicated to a certain extent, but it won't be made worse for you if you have to obviously deal with any shortfalls at the moment. So the audit we have developed, as I said, is a free online tool. So it's designed to ask you questions about your entire business, and it helps you identify the risks. And more importantly, it provides you with a report at the end with guidance and support on how to de-risk these areas. It's generally a 10-15 minute process to complete, so very quick. And as I said, you get a report at the end. Summarising your responses, and then having recommendations provided to you. So that's a really vital tool. Moving on to our second tool, an impact assessment. These actually follow on quite nicely from those questions that I've just explored with you. These templates that we have available and we'll be adding to the library in the coming weeks, these are key tools for assessing the impact of the reforms on your business. So like I gave the example of SSP, if the costs are going to increase, do you absorb that cost or pass it on through the services and through the business that you offer? And it's about looking at the SSP reform and how it impacts the entire business, your reporting, your systems, data protection, etc. So by completing these impact assessments, it's about understanding the issues that may arise as a result of the reform change, and then you can determine the appropriate actions to remove it or mitigate against it. So we've got a selection already available. SSP is one of them. So there's one impact assessment per reform, and as I said, we're going to be adding to those. So do check those out. Again, available on our website, or there's that QR code there as well. And then moving on to the strategic planning, this is the essential business activity. It will be critical in order to respond to the changing employment landscape, whether that's because of the changing in law or the business context we're operating in and HR trends. So the strategic HR plan is about aligning your human resources with overall business objectives. And by doing so, you're helping the business to ensure compliance with the legislation and any sector-specific regulations. You know, there are some reforms that are only relevant to certain sectors. It enables the business to mitigate the risks associated with the new employment reforms. It helps you to develop an agile and flexible workforce because you can identify what kind of way you want to recruit people, the type of contracts. It helps you identify your current and future needs. And ultimately, that strategic planning helps you put in place measures that will help with candidate attraction and retaining your top talent. And vitally, I think, is about staying ahead of your competitors. And so implementing the latest HR trends. So I've shared with you a handful today of where we think the latest HR trends in going into next year. So your strategic HR plan can be used to identify those trends that you want to explore to further enhance your business to stay ahead of your competitors. The thing I would say is the employment reforms are still going through Parliament. I will give you an update on that shortly. They are subject to amendment, although we're pretty much nearly there. So just ensure your strategic plan can be flexed and take account of that. And also the continuing information we get from the government over the coming year. We do offer a template. Again, it's available on our website that is a template strategic plan, and it'll help you to map out exactly what you need to do to remain compliant, but also become that competitive employer. And then I guess all of this leads me to share about how HR are fundamental to business success in acting as a business partner. So HR functions are, like I've said earlier in this session, HR is becoming increasingly strategic, working more closely aligned with the overarching business goals through that business partnering approach. And for those of you on the session today, if you do work with the HR or it's part of your job role, then I guess what this is doing is just to help illustrate how key your role will be in the coming months ahead. So you will get a copy of this slide, but really just to sum up, it's about how HR's role is pivotal in preparing for the Employment Rights Bill. It's about the ability to assess organisational readiness. So HR can lead a structured review of current people practices. The function can help identify gaps and risks, model cost and workflow impacts, and set priorities for immediate and phased actions. As well, it can help, HR can help ensure legal compliance. So the HR safeguards the business, isn't it, by updating contracts, policies, dismissal procedures, payroll, and all other internal controls that you need to ensure alignment with new legislation. HR actually is also pivotal in facilitating clear communications. So it's about communication strategies for employees, for managers, using that tailored messaging, ensuring multiple channels to maintain transparency, trust, and ultimately employee engagement. HR plays that key role in strengthening employee documentation. So HR is about ensuring the contracts, like I said, policies are compliant, and that there's guidance available for managers. And on that, they can also deliver training and build capability, or they can help in assessing the training needs that employees need, managers. And as I said, HR teams as well will most likely need training with these reforms because they are significant and in some areas of a complete change to how we work. If you think about the variation of terms and conditions reforms and what have you. So there are particular areas that HR teams will need training. But ultimately, HR is about being that strategic advisor or consultant. It's supporting leadership in the workforce planning, organisational design, cost management and scenario planning, because ultimately the business needs to maintain its agility, be compliant and competitive. So we've got a few polls in this section now to do with strategic planning. And the first one follows on from the previous one, actually. So those of you that don't currently have a strategic HR plan, will you, after today's session, be looking to introduce one for your business? We just need to wait for them to show through.
Yeah, they're coming through now, I think.
Okay.
Okay, shall we
Yeah, let's have a look.
share those results now? So let's close and share that one.
What have we
So
got?
it looks like
Yeah,
significant
brilliant.
number have, will
Yeah,
be, if they haven't
yeah,
yet.
brilliant.
So yeah, that's good. Shall we move on to the...
Yeah, don't forget to check out our resources to help if you need. And then the second question is about who's going to be developing the strategic plan. Obviously, it depends on your structure in your own organisation as to how things operate, but is it your business owner, office manager, in-house HR? Who else have we got? Oh, you've got, have I not put that poll on? It's a different poll showing, sorry,
Oh,
ignore what I
sorry.
was just saying.
Sorry, I got the next one down.
That's me then, sorry.
Sorry, I'll see if I can go back to that one in a minute.
Yeah. So yeah, so which of the 5 trends we've taken you through today do you think would be worth exploring for your business? And you should be able to select more than one if I've set it up correctly. Yeah.
Just let a few more come through. I think there was a slight delay, but they're all coming through now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's
Be interesting.
close and share those results. So there we go.
Yeah, AI. Definitely AI. I mean, we experience and use it ourselves in terms of where we can, and it definitely can enhance the job in terms of efficiency. Obviously, the big considerations around the ethical, fair use of it. And definitely people-centered employee experience, absolutely, because with the period of change, I know the change is perhaps bigger for the employer than it is the employee. There's going to be lots of changes to policies and things. So having that focus on the employee experience and their well-being is a good area to focus.
Okay, let's hide that one and see what my option next is.
I might
Who
not
will
put them
has
in the right
developed?
order.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just the order, I think. So here we go. Who has developed it?
Here we go. They're coming through now.
Okay, shall we close and share those results? Here we go.
Yeah, in-house HR and also in conjunction with leadership is, yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's not as expected, I would guess. Do you want me to move on to the next one, which is?
Is it the right
Feel
one?
prepared. Yeah, do you feel
Do you
prepared?
feel prepared?
Yeah.
For the employment law developments.
Yeah. And then we've got one more after this.
Yeah, and the next one will be good for helping us develop our support and resources.
Yeah. Coming through now. This one's pretty even, I think.
Don't know if we've ever had a 50-50.
We've probably had 49-51 or something like that. We just close and share that one.
Yeah.
It's pretty even, really.
Yeah.
But although more continuing. So I guess that leads nicely into the next one about the biggest concern, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it is just select one answer, I think, on this one. Have you got it?
No. It's how can we support? Not
possibly that one. Yeah.
Concern. So let's put that one up. So what is it that would help you most in and is the concern around the lack of guidance or the lack of time or the training? It's kind of indicator of what is it that concerns you most, and
it's going to be a mammoth task to do the documents, isn't it? Thinking about it.
Yeah. It's a big project plan. I mean, the good news is, in some ways, I guess, is that it's an opportunity to really think if you want to change things. Obviously, you'd need to consult if they're contractually linked, but if this is an opportunity to really think how you do business and how you structure your company, use your staff and all the resources that you have to deliver the business focus, and it's a real opportunity for a big rethink. on the best way of doing that in the light of all the other things that are going on as well, such as the AI, such as the changes in technology. Microsoft being one of the biggest things, that they're changing things all the while. They're constantly introducing new things. The AI is a big thing that they've introduced, and it's just how you can capture those rather than them hinder you. So can you capture them to help? I'm just going to close that.
Just quickly, because you raised a really good point there about it's an opportunity to revisit what you offer. And I think the thing that we would probably say is, if you're going to change something that's contractual while you're looking at overhauling your policies, you're better doing it now rather than later, because in October next year, it's going to be very, very difficult to push through contractual changes. And that's one of the reforms coming in. So it probably is better doing it sooner rather than later if you're looking to change anything contractual.
Absolutely. I think that's it.
So, okay, lovely. And this brings me nicely just to, before we get to our Q&A, just going to give you the latest news on the ERB. So last week, you may have heard in the news that agreement was sought on changing the qualifying service for unfair dismissal. However, whereas the government wanted it to be a day one right, that was not agreed. Instead, it's going to be a 6-month service requirement for employees to have if they're going to claim unfair dismissal. And since that decision on that amendment, a further amendment was put forward to remove the compensatory cap that's given when somebody is successful in an unfair dismissal claim. So at the moment, if somebody is successful, there's a basic award and then there's a compensatory award. The compensatory award is limited to either 52 weeks salary or 118,000 tops, whichever is the lower. And what this latest amendment has been in the last few days is to remove that completely. So it would be managed just like how discrimination claims are managed, where they're uncapped, or whistleblowing claims. So that's the latest, and that actually is a sticking point for the bill getting through. So Monday and yesterday, last night in fact, we've had 2 debates. Monday was the House of Commons, last night was the House of Lords. The only sticking point now, of all the amendments that have been made, there's one remaining that's outstanding, and that's whether the unfair dismissal cap should be removed. The Lords haven't agreed to that, so it means the bill goes back to the House of Commons. But what the Lords have done is put in a counter offer of saying consider it, but only after a period of consultation has taken place. And I think the rationale behind that is because it is such a significant change, and if they were to immediately accept what the government is putting forward, they will have done so without considering the thoughts and inputs of key stakeholders. So that's why it's gone back to the House of Commons to see if it could get passed through to say that they will remove the cap, but only after a consultation period. All the other amendments that have been going back and forth over months, they're all tidied up, they're all sorted, agreed on. There's obviously some that haven't been agreed on, but these it's all sorted. So this is the last remaining sticking point. So the question is, could the bill become law before they finish for Christmas? Which is, we jokingly said a few moments ago, 19th of December, we'll get the news. So basically, that's the last day before of Parliament. So between now and next Friday, is it realistic to get the bill given royal assent? So there's obviously a strong chance, because obviously now it's only that last remaining thing. So be prepared for some breaking news over the next 5-6 days, because there is a strong chance it could get pushed through. Obviously, depending on parliamentary business and when the House of Commons can next debate this piece to do with the cap. But in theory, there is technically there is a chance it could get through. But if you think about to what I was talking about earlier, there's different phases for implementation. You've got 3 phases really from when the bills pass through to October next year. Yeah, so there are things to consider. So we're nearly there. And just wanted to take the opportunity to let you know about the help, support and advice and guidance that we've got available to you. So I've talked about several pieces. So the free impact assessment templates, we have the free risk audits available to help you in your preparations. And for those of you who are regulars to our webinars, we've got our schedule set up until March, and we offer our employment law seminar as well. That's all booked ready for March as well. And then we usually offer that free 30-minute consultation with one of our experienced HR advisors. And it could be on anything, whether you're dealing with performance issues, navigating absences, or to do with the ERB. Just go to our website and fill out one of our forms there, and you can have that call back for that free 30-minute consultation. And then, of course, follow us on all our social media pages, because we break the news as it comes through, and obviously use our social media pages and website to provide general updates, which can include very detailed articles on topics as well. But do keep in touch with us. It's always great to have you follow us on socials and to engage with us. There's some details there in how you can do that. So keep in touch with us. And then our next monthly webinars, we're going to be talking about sick pay in January. February is all about the budget that we've just had and the HR and the essentials for how you adjust your plans accordingly. And then, as I said, we've got our virtual employment law seminar on the 12th of March. Before we take your questions, there's a final poll, I believe, Sue, and it's whether you'd like us to contact you after today about any of our services. Do let us know, and we can arrange that call back or follow up at least with you afterwards.
Yeah, apologies for the confusion earlier. The polls had got a little bit out of order somehow, so that's why.
It might be operator error, Sue, on my part. So I apologise.
But yeah, this is not a problem. We've got a couple of questions.
Okay, lovely.
That one before we go into the questions, kind of an observation. If there are fewer jobs, there's not going to be the opportunity for staff to move. So might that actually help with retention? But also it might mean that more people stay and are not happy. So you could have, it could be a good thing, or it could be a more challenging thing, I guess.
And these are the sort of things to think about when you do work through impact assessments. You know, the knock-on effect on your people, the engagement. Yeah, it's a good point. How do you keep your employees engaged?
Keep your employees engaged. Yeah, absolutely. That's a whole different conversation, isn't it? So if you want to move on to the questions.
Yeah, okay.
So there's only one or two here. One is around the 0-hour contract, which we know is going to be an interesting.
It's our favourite.
And how that will affect seasonal and term time workers.
Yeah. Okay. I suppose the first thing to say, it's extremely complicated. It's probably the most challenging of all the reforms, and it's not just me and Sue that sort of feel that, but you know, barristers and legal firms, you know, are reporting that it's so complicated in how they're set up the reform. But essentially, if you do recruit 0 hours casual workers, what it's going to mean, and of course we don't have all the detail, but at high level, it's about, as an employer, you having to give them a minimum number of hours in their contract. So what those minimum number of hours will be based on a reference period, which don't quote me, but I think there was talk around it being a 12-week reference period, and you'd have that embedded within the contract, so that they've got that commitment of having that work. And I think it goes back to the whole principle about why they're doing it, is to ensure people have access to jobs and that continued, and you know, they've got the confidence that they've got money coming in, and so that's what it's doing. And then the whole piece around employees being able to request a part-time contract.
Yeah,
it's so complicated.
it is, and I mean, it'll be a whole topic, won't it,
Yeah,
to discuss when the detail comes in on that, because you've got your genuine ad hoc people who come and go, do an hour here and there, cover for the odd holiday or things like that, and those sort of casual agreements. It's not really those, it's the ones who regularly do work week in, week out, but there is no guaranteed number of hours that they will work. And it's I think it's those that it's targeted at, because they have been exploited by some unscrupulous employers, and unfortunately everybody's suffering from those who have exploited that ability
yeah,
to be able to absolutely have no guarantees of work from 1 minute to the next, let alone 1 week to the next. And it's to tighten up on that, so it'll just make the contracts, the contractual document or the agreement that you have with those workers will need to be really tight and really clear, and have some minimum things in it, such as minimum
yeah,
hours and minimum and timescales, like notifications for cancellation of shifts and things like that. So
and
it's the
payment.
whole management piece, isn't it? And yeah,
Very complicated, and we need further regulations, codes of practice. There needs to be a consultation. So when there is a consultation, if you do employ workers of that type, it's really essential that you have your voice and contribute into that. So we often put it in our newsletters when consultations are announced, so do look out for that.
yeah, absolutely. And as you say, that the penalties for last minute cancellations, you might still have to pay them. So there is a
Yeah.
budgetary impact on this as well, depending on how flexible you need it. So there's another question around statutory sick pay. SPP, statutory paternity pay,
Yeah.
and SMP. Will that be eligible from day one?
No,
Is
you
that the same
still,
for
yeah,
SMP?
so from a
Yeah.
payment side, you still need the normal 26 weeks qualifying service. The entitlement to paternity leave is the thing that's changing, so it becomes
Changing.
day
Yeah.
one to have the leave. Whether you qualify for pay is a different matter.
Yeah. It's always been two separate things, hasn't it?
Yeah.
The payment and the leave itself. And is that the same for SMP, maternity pay?
Yeah. Yeah, you need to be able to use a historic payment record to work out what they're entitled to, which is why you need your qualifying service.
Yeah. Yeah.
You look back at your
Exactly.
earnings. Yeah.
Yeah. Employees who are currently under 2 years, does it change to 6 months rights from April? This was
Oh,
clarified
this is
recently, wasn't it, in
interesting.
the last couple of days?
Yeah.
So it is coming in with effect from the 1st of January 2027, we believe, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What they're
in
saying is, yeah, if you hire people from July 2026, they
yeah,
will fall in scope of that new protection because they'll have 6 months by the time 1st of January comes.
yeah. So it is a retrospective one, isn't it?
Yeah. That's what's
So yeah,
currently, yeah, being put forward. Obviously, we need to wait for the final official confirmation, but yeah, that's what we're dealing with.
that's what
So
we
all your new
believe.
recruits
Yeah,
from July will fall in scope.
yeah.
Yeah.
And should employers be going down disciplinary route now with employees under 2 years in preparation? Well, it might be a consideration. um,
If it's
depends
needed.
on how well you manage it, and how important it is that you need to take decisions I think it focuses you on taking decisions sooner rather than later, and not letting things drift. If it could be simply resolved with minimum pain for everybody by removing the challenge sooner rather than later, then you have it's not going to change whether it's right to do so with the changes in the law, but it sometimes it's a genuine business need to move it quickly. And I think that's the biggest challenge we feel it'll be with the changes, is that, you know, you will lose that flexibility, so you'll have to be more focused on making decisions in the very early months, but even that will have to be following a quite strict process.
On that, I was just going to say, if for people that you hire from July onwards, then if that's going to be the case, that they get their 6 months protection come the January the 1st, then if you don't have probation processes in place, now's a good time to introduce them, because if you've got that probation process, it'll help you in managing and recording and capturing any issues that may be coming up during their initial period of employment. And remember, you know, if you extend probation periods, it takes them over 6 months. It's just thinking about things like that. And that's, again, going back to the impact assessment, they're the kind of considerations to have.
Yeah. I think that's it. I think that's
Brilliant.
all the
good questions. Yeah, thank you.
Very good questions.
Well, that just leads me just to thank everybody for joining us today. I know everybody's time is precious and everybody's busy. And thank you to everyone that's joined our webinars throughout 2025. We love doing them, and obviously we're going to be continuing to provide as much support and help to you all in the coming months ahead. So do sign up for our regular monthly webinars. It's always great to have you. So thank you to everyone, and thank you to Sue for assisting as well, as usual. So thank you.
Thank you.